Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. The southern standstill. Passengers battle on as 1,000 southern drivers go on strike. And this is just the start.
I'm on the cusp of giving up my job. On the cusp because of this.
I have to get up early, get the nanny in early and hope I can get home.
The worst disruption in 20 years. Empty stations and car parks and road chaos as the Transport Secretary calls the strikes futile.
Also tonight, the valuable wildlife paintings stolen from Marwell Zoo and the artists calling for their return.
And where showbiz royalty meets real royalty. Behind the scenes of the Royal Variety performance. Good evening. It's the worst strike chaos in 20 years, and tonight Southern Rail passengers remain at home or are holed up in hotels as the walkout by train drivers heads into its second day.
For those who did travel, it was a big squeeze on the very few trains operating or a journey by bus or coach. It's the first strike for drivers. Rail conductors have already taken action. A third walkout is planned on Friday.
From Southampton and Portsmouth to Ashford International, Hastings and Seaford, there were no trains operating on the southern route today.
Other companies did run trains, very busy ones. Thameslink operated as normal from Brighton into London. There were no Gatwick Express trains south of the airport.
Today's dispute brought the southern network to a standstill. Almost 2,300 services stopped running as 1,000 drivers went on strike.
More than 500,000 passenger journeys were affected and 219 stations had no service.
In a moment, we'll be live at Westminster and at a town in Sussex badly affected by the strike. But first to our transport correspondent Mike Pearce at Three Bridges. Mike, the start of a month of chaos, but some breaking news tonight.
Yes, indeed. Within the last hour, it's been confirmed there will be peace talks at ACAS tomorrow, attended by both sides. We don't have any more details. Southern tonight said it reached out to the ASLEF union this afternoon in a new attempt to try and resolve this dispute. Of course, as things stand tonight, there are no services across much of the region. Hundreds of thousands of people are affected. There were a few services on Thameslink on the Brighton line today. Passengers struggled into work and I joined them. One of the few trains that did run on the Brighton line today packed with commuters who said they had no alternative but to try to get to London. Only Thameslink services were operating, with all others cancelled, affecting hundreds of thousands of passengers.
Total and utter disgust.
I mean, it's been impossible. It's a nightmare, really. This week I'm actually going to stay in London for the rest of the week because otherwise I just don't know if I'll be able to get home.
I've got to get to work. So I have to get up early, get the nanny in early and hope I can get home.
It's very, very difficult, but we hope everything will be sorted.
With over 2,000 services cancelled, most stations and tracks were deserted in the worst rail disruption for decades.
I'm on the cusp of giving up my job. On the cusp because of this. Every single day. And next week, Christmas week, we're having a laugh.
I worked overnight at the university library on my dissertation, and I went to the station at about 5:30 this morning feeling a bit dreary, and there was no trains.
The destination for drivers was the picket line. They opposed the move to driver-only operation, which has been on many trains since the 1980s.
It's about people realistically listening to our concerns, which they failed to do for the last 12 months.
Isn't the reality you've allowed driver-only operation for the last 20 years, so it's a bit tough now to say to people we don't want it?
Well, I have to say 20 years ago, with hindsight, we might not have done what we did. But the reality back then was there were shorter trains, we didn't have the level of footfall we have now, and it's becoming, in our view, increasingly unsafe with the numbers we're carrying.
It's gone on for 9 months for passengers. It's inconceivable, it's unacceptable, it is not on.
Okay, for passengers it has been 9 months of industrial relations which has undermined our ability to be able to operate. a reliable service, which, you know, I totally recognise from our passengers and ourselves is really frustrating and unacceptable. And this is why we're
They
saying...
want you to do something about it, and now, not all this talk.
So this is why we're saying to ASLEF, look, striking is not the solution to the problem here.
At Victoria, the empty destination boards told the story. Only half the usual Gatwick Express service was running, with a queuing system in place to stop platforms and trains becoming too crowded. Passenger groups now plan a march on Thursday to the Department for Transport to vent their anger.
People have got incredibly frustrated. They are literally at breaking point, and that's why we're going down to the Department for Transport on Thursday following a protest in Victoria, because right now we need the Department for Transport to intervene in this dispute, and we need them to sort out the current situation.
Meanwhile, the disruption continues tomorrow.
Mike, both sides yet to back down, and Southern Rail commuters are stepping up their fight too this week.
Yes, indeed, people are extremely frustrated. They don't know what to do next. They've held protests at stations, they've been public meetings with MPs. They are sick to the back teeth of all this action and all this disruption that's gone on for the last 9 months. So today they've announced, as we heard there, that they're now going to march on the Department for Transport. They're going to demand to see the Transport Secretary, Chris Grayling. They say he must act. They say it can't go on any longer. Action must be taken. He must help resolve it.
Mike, thank you, and we'll catch up later on in the programme.
Well, people's frustrations with the trains, or lack of them, were shared by passengers who chose to use buses or coaches to get to work today.
Many seem resigned to the chaos ahead, at least for now. Here's Andy Dickinson.
Commuters mix with tourists boarding the 6:25 to London. But this is no holiday. Instead, a 3-hour journey into work for passengers enduring their 23rd day of rail strikes.
I think eventually people are going to start smashing things or people, or I mean, last night I saw a guy, when the train we'd been sitting on for 10 minutes, we suddenly got told we had to wait for a driver. He got off the train and he went and sort of smashed his fist into something as he walked past, because he was just that angry, and that's how we're all getting. We just want to, you know, because nobody seems to be doing anything.
More than 600,000 journeys are taken on Southern every day, yet this morning passengers have been forced to use alternatives, whether driving, using other networks, or coaches like this one, or else staying at home.
I used to commute up to London for 19 years, and earlier this year I was offered a job nearer to Gatwick, and I took it and took the salary hit for my sanity. So yeah, it's changed my life. I've had to change my life because of it.
People just want to get to work and home again, and I've seen quite a lot of people trying to be calm, you know, not lose their temper. But I mean, there's going to be, I think there's going to be a riot at some time, to be honest. It's disgraceful.
Some of these commuters will now remain in the capital, even paying for hotels, in the hope of avoiding further chaos this week. The concourses they've left behind empty, the roads ahead clogged, their spirits all but broken. Andy Dickinson, ITV News.
It's likely to be the government that sorts this out, but so far the government, in the shape of the Transport Secretary, has not been willing to get involved.
But perhaps the dispute that's now turned into a national crisis will force him to rethink. Well, our political reporter David Wood joins us now live from Westminster. David, speculation that Chris Grayling may ban future rail strikes, but surely that requires legislation, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly right, Fred, and that could take ages. It would need to be primary legislation, which members of the House of Commons and Lords would have to agree on to get it through. And that only ever happens quickly if they agree in the first place. And I can tell you right now, they don't. Labour are expressing today their solidarity with ASLEF. And the Shadow Transport Secretary, Andy MacDonald, is basically placing the whole blame for this strike at Chris Grayling's door, saying that he now needs to intervene and sort Southern, the franchise operator of Southern, out and basically make it their problem. He, though, is standing firm and blaming the unions for all this action.
We're not prepared to end the modernisation of the railways. There are huge potential benefits from new technologies, new ways of working. It's how you deal with an overcrowded railway where there's too many trains, too many passengers on too little track. You have to use new technology. All other businesses know that. I don't understand why the unions are so resistant to what's going to make a difference in the modern world.
But this strike is getting attention here at Westminster. Local MPs, particularly local Conservative MPs, are getting a lot of pressure on them to try and sort their government out and find out a result and find a resolution for all this action. I've spoken to a number in recent weeks. They say they're hearing from constituents that are either losing out on cash because they're not able to get into work at the right time, or in other cases aren't getting home early enough to maybe tuck their youngsters in to bed at night. Now, one local MP has come up with an idea saying there should be rules on strikes that basically would stop them at certain circumstances, like with this one where the regulator says that driver-operated doors are safe, but the union doesn't. Let's hear from him.
I'd like to see a situation whereby we prohibit strikes that are taking place under the grounds of safety when the regulator for that industry has signed off that the practice is safe. I think it's time we do that because this strike is completely disproportionate and is having a huge impact.
Well, Hugh Merriman, the MP for Bexhill and Battle, is introducing a bill that really would say that key pieces of infrastructure, and the Southern Network is critical, the largest in the country, and critical to the nation's as well as the regional economy, that there should be further restrictions on strike action being able to be taken. And I do think those sorts of measures now need to be looked at.
David, talks at the Conciliation Service ACAS tomorrow. The government won't back down. The unions haven't so far. Honestly, what are the chances?
Do you know what, Fred? I don't want to give more grim news, but I don't really think there is much hope. Every time over the past couple of years, we've expected some sort of improvement, some sort of deal, and we haven't got them. This circumstance, or what we're seeing today, many hoped would actually bring the sides together to find a resolution. Yes, they're talking, but I think realistically, they're just growing further apart.
We will no doubt talk again tomorrow. David Wood, for now, thank you very much indeed. On our website this evening, full details of the other strikes by both unions, taking us into the new year and more on how it's affecting passengers. itv.com/Meridian.
More of the South News now, and an inquest has heard how a 6-year-old girl was drowned in the bath by her father, who then killed himself.
The body of Kezia Flux Edmonds was found at her home in East Cowes on the Isle of Wight in June, as Dave Russell now reports.
A photograph of Kezia Flux Edwards took pride of place in front of her mother in court today. The 6-year-old was found dead at her home in East Cowes on June the 1st. The joint inquest heard that her father, Darren Flux Edmonds, was found hanging from the loft hatch. In a written statement, Kezia's mother revealed she received a text from her husband just after leaving for work. It ended saying, "So I shall just leave you with memories." And those memories came to the fore at Kezia's funeral, when dozens of friends and neighbours turned out to celebrate her life. It was revealed that Mr. Flux Edwards had issues with depression and had made at least one attempt on his life before. In her summing up, the coroner praised emergency services on their professionalism while trying to save Kezia, who was found on a bed after being drowned. She recorded a verdict of unlawful killing on Kezia and suicide for her father. Dave Russell, ITV News on the Isle of Wight.
The NHS is failing to learn from patient deaths and letting down grieving families. That's the damning verdict from a year-long report commissioned by the government. It followed the death of 18-year-old Connor Sparrowhawk from Oxford, who drowned while under the care of Southern Health, which covers Hampshire and Berkshire. His mother, Dr. Sarah Ryan, has campaigned tirelessly for a review into how unexpected deaths are investigated. Today, she was praised once more by Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt, who accepted the report's findings. There'll be a new national standard into how deaths are investigated.
11 valuable paintings of tigers, elephants and leopards have been stolen from a zoo in Hampshire.
The works were by wildlife painter Pip McGarry, who has been artist in residence at Marwell Zoo near Winchester for 17 years. They're worth more than £160,000. Here's Richard Jones.
Professional painter Pip McGarry has been artist in residence at Marwell since 1999, and his work is on display at the zoo's gift shop. It was from there that 11 of his paintings were stolen late on December the 8th or early the following day. It seems thieves targeted the most valuable, including this painting of a snow leopard with a price tag of £36,000.
I'm really sad and shocked, but I'm also astonished that these individuals have gone to such lengths to steal my paintings when they're going to be so difficult to sell at auction or in galleries or on eBay without being rumbled. Added to which, who wants a stolen painting on their wall? They could be considered complicit in the crime, they could have it confiscated without having any remuneration.
Hampshire Police want to hear from anyone who knows about the theft or has been offered any of the paintings. Marwell says it could suffer if the work isn't recovered, because a significant proportion of every sale of Pip's work goes to support its conservation projects. Richard Jones, ITV News.
A senior Isle of Wight councillor appeared in court today charged with drink driving. 67-year-old councillor Phil Jordan from St Helens stepped down from the council executive last week. He was stopped by police in October twice over the drink drive limit. In a statement, Councillor Jordan said he made a mistake, a miscalculation and an error of judgment. He's been banned from driving for 20 months.
A 20-year-old woman had a lucky escape after her car crashed off the A35 and was submerged in water. It happened this morning on the Redbridge Causeway. The driver suffered minor injuries but managed to escape.
The New Forest Visitor Information Centre in Lyndhurst will close after the council voted to end the service. It means the New Forest will be the country's only national park without a dedicated walk-in centre. The council says more visitors are booking online.
Plans have gone on show for 1,100 new homes at Stoneham Park in Eastleigh. The new development would also include a new primary school, shops and community buildings. If approved, work will start at the end of next year.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up,
behind the scenes of an entertainment institution, how the Royal Variety Show has been delighting audiences for more than a century.
Back to our top story today in the 48-hour Southern Rail walkout by train drivers. There'll be another one too on Friday and more action by rail conductors.
Well, today's strike marks the worst point in the dispute so far, but even before today, some travellers decided they'd had enough.
Well, John Ryle is in Uckfield, one town where the only rail service is provided by Southern. John, and some residents are on the move.
That's right, Sangeeta. There are many places on the Southern network that are served by Southern and also by a second train company. So in those places on strike days like this, commuters have an alternative. Here at Uckfield, there is no alternative. It's Southern or nothing. So today, thousands of people have had to choose between driving into London, working from home, or paying £50–60 for a cab ride to another network, another station such as Haywards Heath or Tunbridge Wells. Well, earlier I spoke to one long-suffering commuter who's had enough. He's selling up his house, he's uprooting his family to escape the clutches of Southern Rail. When Alex Hill and his family moved to Uckfield 3 years ago, he thought it was going to be an easy commute to his job as an insurance underwriter in London. But after the ordeal of the last year, he's decided that Uckfield is the end of the line in more ways than one. He can't take any more, he's selling up and moving to somewhere well away from the Southern network.
And the only reason that we would move is due to the shambolic state of the railway. I know my wife doesn't want to move, it'll be an uproot for the kids to get them out of school. But what can you do?
Working from home yet again today, he says the months of disruption have taken a heavy toll.
If they were a horse, they'd been shot. You can't transport livestock around the EU in the conditions that they transport people around the network on those trains.
Today, the new station car park, built with a possible extension to the line to Lewes in mind, was once again empty.
I think there's a place for government to get involved and actually try and resolve the issue and be more forceful in actually trying to get in and get the two parties together and try and get a resolution for the poor embittered people that are actually suffering as a cause of it.
Well, I'm going to have to bus it. I'm going to the bus station across the road, get a bus to London because I'm off to Bristol. For a meeting at 2 o'clock.
Strikes by the RMT and now ASLEF too have also hit the local economy.
But without the commuters coming through town, it just stops people coming into the town. If there's no trains, they don't come into town, they don't spend their money in the town. It's as simple as that.
And even the one business benefiting from the strikes, this cab company based in the old station signal box, says a settlement with the unions is long overdue.
I just think it's disgusting the way it's going on, so, sort it out. If the customers, they're going to lose customers, then there won't be a train here at all.
Moving will mean Alex Hill and his wife have to leave the house they love, and their children will be uprooted from local schools. But Alex says he can't face another year of southern stress. Well, just to recap on that breaking news earlier in the programme, all parties involved have agreed to talks with the Conciliation Service, ACAS, tomorrow, so there's a slim chance of good news there, but it won't come in time to prevent further strike action tomorrow.
John, thank you.
Well, we've been getting your views about the strike via our Facebook page and Twitter, and a few Skype calls too.
Richard Slee is in our newsroom and at our video wall. Richard.
Well, as you might expect, there's plenty of angry people venting their frustration on social media today. On Facebook, Lee Davis makes a good point that the strike doesn't just affect train users. He says it affects everyone who normally drives to work because the roads get so clogged up with extra cars. Christine King says the disruption has been going on for so long that her 20-year-old granddaughter from the Chichester area, who works in Worthing, has left home and moved to Worthing, otherwise she faced losing her job. And Katrina Mason from West Sussex has been in touch via FaceTime. She told us that she's had such a bad time travelling from West Sussex to attend her master's degree course that she's having to move to London during the week.
I'm likely to fail if I don't revise my situation. So I'm making that sacrifice, and my children are making that sacrifice so that I then can do the course and be with them at weekends.
Another commuter having to move to London during the week is Jim Boyden from Shoreham. He says he's angry that he now can't get home to see his children at bedtime.
I'm pretty sanguine about the hotel costs, but what I really can't be compensated for is the fact that I can't see my son and my daughter in the evening. I can't read them a bedtime story, I can't give them a bath, and I can't be with them for that important developmental stage of their life at the moment.
Lots of comments on Twitter as well. Ben Simpson says that Southern Rail passengers should stop paying until a full service is restored. While Kim Taylor, in what looks like a message to drivers, says, while you're enjoying your strike days, think about those who have to cover for colleagues unable to get to work. And finally, there's always somebody who can see the funny side of a difficult situation. Take a look at this from Stephen James, who says he's just going to wait it out for the next train from Brighton to London. Well, the rest of the week is expected to be much the same, so please keep your stories and your comments coming in.
Thank you, Richard.
OK, let's return now live to our transport correspondent Mike Pearce. Mike, you've been close to everyone in this dispute since it started 9 months ago. A bigger strike in January. What's it going to take to settle all of this?
Well, I absolutely do not know. I speak to both sides very frequently in the recent weeks and months, of course. They will not budge. Of course, it's all about the drivers closing the doors and the change of the role of the guard. The union says we're not budging. The company says we're not budging. They talk, they go to ACAS, it all breaks down. Talks again tomorrow, of course. Will they work? The chances are they probably will not, because as things stand tonight, both sides are saying they are not prepared to budge, to move their positions. So I think it spells bad news for passengers in the coming weeks and months.
We shall see. Mike, we'll talk again soon. For now, thank you.
Let's lighten the mood, and it's become an entertainment institution, and for more than a century the Royal Variety Show has been drawing in the crowds and the stars.
Yes, it's that time of the year again, and the Royal Variety Performance 2016 is here on ITV at 7:30 this evening. Kevin Ashford has been backstage.
Now, one thing you'd hope for from a variety show is variety, and perhaps sometimes a bit of the unexpected. Well, the 2016 Royal Variety Performance certainly provides both. This pop stars offering, for example, will be based on a book he's written.
With this, it's kind of unknown territory. You know, it's a show, you know, a live show for next Christmas that we're showing a tiny glimpse of. So you kind of want to cram as much in to show everyone what the show's about. So we've got Santa and dinosaurs and a giant book and songs and dancing elves. It's a bit it's a bit chaotic, Christmassy chaotic.
Now, as the name suggests, the Royal Variety performance does involve having a royal in the audience. This year it's Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall. And for many performers, that makes the evening very special indeed.
I've performed as a musician in the army for Royal Family many times, but never magic. So this is the first time they've ever seen me in a magic role, which is quite an interesting thing. So I'm keen to see what they think of it, and I'm hoping to maybe get one of them involved.
Really? So it could be the royal magic?
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, I need a volunteer, and I'd be very grateful, Your Royal Highness, if you wouldn't mind getting involved. Fantastic.
When you're performing, I don't think you're looking for them. You just see the audience, but just knowing that they're there, I get really nervous.
It's when you come forward to take the bow, because you bow to the crowd, and then you know that the moment that really matters, you kind of turn to that royal box and you say, I hope you enjoyed it. And you're kind of thinking, oh, did they not?
Yeah.
And it really is, it's got that kind of strand that no other performance has. And that's what makes this one special.
The Royal Variety Show is now seen by more than 152 million television viewers worldwide. It's the most successful and longest running entertainment show in the world, and proceeds from it go to the Royal Variety charity. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
That's at 7:30. Now Simon.
Yep, I have a green Christmas news for you. Nothing to do with the weather, but to do with being environmentally sound. Remember on Friday we had a Christmas tree made from one of these, a pallet?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it looked like. Loads of people have been at it, look. Sandra Austin on the Isle of Sheppey has done this festive creation, again from a wooden pallet. Alison Flake in Fairham's husband Fred made this one. She also used natural things to decorate it, fir cones and berry garlands.
Well done.
That is from artist Ern, who travelled to the Ukraine twice to do art workshops with local children and has done festive things like that for the garden. Amazing, isn't it? And how about this from Howie Atton, a research student at the RNLI. Christmas tree made entirely out of recycled RNLI wellies. And finally, Dave Jordan in Lowestoke says the scaffolders in Gravesend are very inventive too.
Both welly good.
Do we need wellies?
No.
We don't need wellies, and if you don't believe me, here he is with a better forecast, hopefully, Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now there's another of those supermoons tonight, but you'll be fairly hard pushed to see it because there's a fair bit of gloom still around. This was earlier on today at Cowdray Park in Sussex, where it was, well, cloudy but still looking fairly decent, and even gloomy days can look quite pretty, as this picture from Cayley and Waterlooville shows. But the cloud certainly will be with us off and on over the next few days. The temperatures are going to start to drop a little. We've got the jet stream just to the north of us, high pressure to the south. We've had very mild temperatures, but you can see the lovely yellow is being replaced by blue as the week goes on, and that means by the end of the week temperatures are going to be back to where they should be for this time of year, around 7-8 degrees by day. But overnight tonight, it's certainly going to be another mild one with temperatures well up into double figures for most of us. Again, we've got some mist and murk developing, particularly over the higher ground, but it will be a dry night. However, a grey start to look forward to tomorrow. But things will improve. That cloud is going to start to break up slowly from the south. The mist and murk will lift. We get drier air coming in, and that means more in the way of blue sky. Certainly some very good sunny spells into the afternoon. You can see how bright the map looks. Temperatures down a touch on today, peaking at around 11, 52 in Fahrenheit, but with the extra sunshine and the winds staying light around 15 miles an hour along the coast, shouldn't actually feel too bad if you are outside. As for your high tide times, well, you can see in Poole, you've got 9:10 in the morning, then around 9:30 in the evening. Then for Thursday, again, slightly cooler, fair bit of cloud around, but at least we stay dry with a few bits and pieces of drizzle on Friday.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
In just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart and Mary Nightingale.
I shall have our late news, but for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much indeed for watching. Take care.
Bye-bye.